Hey everyone, we are in New Zealand today in Auckland and we're bringing you into the Auckland University of Technology. And I'm very excited to take you in to meet Pamella, who's the international director and loves India, calls herself half Indian. And we're going to talk about all the opportunities that are available in New Zealand for you to study, work and make a career. Okay, so let me quickly introduce you to Pamella. Pamella Miller-Staggers is the International Marketing Manager for AUT. So, hey Pamella, welcome to the show.
Thank you and namaste.
And thank you for taking out time. I understand you've been really busy and it's a pleasure to be at your wonderful university talking to you. Tell us, the students that are watching the show want to know about New Zealand and what is in it for them, why should they be here, what are the wonderful opportunities to study in New Zealand?
I think New Zealand has a lot of advantages. I know it's very competitive out there in the world with different countries like Australia, US, and it becomes very cyclical. Often it's very based on employment opportunities, stay back opportunities. And I think New Zealand rates very high with the standard of education. The standard of education is extremely high based on the English system, like India.
Right.
And New Zealand graduates, me being one, can virtually go anywhere in the world and find employment. I mean, I studied here, I ended up working in London, I ended up working in Africa, I ended up working in America. And whenever I interviewed for jobs, I was always considered quite highly because of my New Zealand credentials.
Oh, fabulous.
So I think the credentials rate high. It's a safe country and there's craziness out there in the world right now. It's a safe country. People care about each other. We're multicultural with huge immigration in the past few years. So we're diverse. Well, also the quality of life is very good. And for Indian students with good credentials gained here at New Zealand universities, they have the opportunity to stay back for 1 year and look for a job. So they get a year stay back. Once they've got a job in the field that they've studied in, they then can go through the process of applying for residency. So they do have the opportunity to study, work and immigrate.
Fantastic. And that 1 year is applicable to any degree that they take up?
Any degree at postgrad level. Yes.
Or a PhD?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about postgrad, because I guess that is where you're finding most of the traction from India, most students wanting to come in. Talk about AUT in particular and the faculties that are interesting for Indian students.
Okay. AUT University we're second largest university. We have 30,000 students, 4,000 internationals from 95 different countries.
Oh, nice.
Our point of difference is small classes, practical, applied. A lot of Indian students have been spoon-fed in class with no practical expertise, especially in the field of engineering. So we have projects, we have interaction with industry, we have internships.
Fantastic. So how large would be your class sizes?
Generally, they run to about 40 students in a classroom. And if they're not showing up in class, the lecturer will go, "Hello, Ravi, you weren't here last week. What's been happening?" So a lot of interaction with lecturers.
You mentioned internships and ongoing learning. So can students undertake these internships and work all through their period of study here?
Students can work at every New Zealand university for 20 hours a week and also full-time in the semester break. These are student jobs, fast food restaurants, working in gas stations, that kind of thing.
But it pays for some part of their food and living expenses?
Yes, we say it will not fund your tuition. But your tuition usually, our masters range from 2-year masters to 3-semester masters to 1-year masters.
Okay.
So you have to pay tuition for 1 year. Before you come and before you get your visa.
Right.
So say you're doing a 180-point masters, which is 3 semesters, you then have to come up with the money for the 3rd semester.
At the end of 1 year?
Yes, exactly. So
okay, and approximately how much would that be, just for a number?
Programs range from about 24,000 up to about 38,000 New Zealand dollars.
Okay, the entire program?
Yeah, okay. So that's all your tuition.
Right.
Students make minimum wage when they're working part-time, which in New Zealand is quite good. It's about $13 an hour, so that's without taxes, but it is quite good money.
Yeah.
And Indian students are very industrious and work very hard to get part-time jobs.
Yes, indeed. We went around yesterday and we bumped into a couple of very enthusiastic students at the store.
Yeah.
And they were doing some very exciting work at college, but they were working at the store.
They're very good.
Pamela, you spoke about engineering, but talk about some of the other faculties within AUT that are of huge interest to Indian students.
Health science, hospitality and tourism.
Right.
Also computer and information science, and also communications. So students who have done mass media in India want to come here and specialize more. Students have to build on what they've done in their bachelor's to be able to go into the master's. The one exception we do have is business, and we do get a lot of Indian students coming to our School of Business, Economics and Law.
Right. In fact, the health science piece was interesting, where you mentioned earlier when we were talking how doctors from India are coming into New Zealand and making a career for themselves.
Yeah. I meet a lot of doctors and dentists, but I find a lot of them are interested in leadership and management in health science.
Okay.
So they're adding a skill onto their medical skill for, say, running a practice or running a business. And I think a lot of them come and do that, and then also while they're here in New Zealand look at doing their medical boards, because there are quite a few Indian doctors in New Zealand because we're actually short of doctors.
And sports science sounded like a very interesting field too.
Yeah, sports science, which is kind of a new concept to Indian graduates because of lack of universities in India providing academic programs in sports science, sports management. Sports science is an excellent credential because India is going to need people with these credentials very soon, if not right
already
now.
Yes.
Yeah. This year, we had the NZEA scholarships, which are the New Zealand Excellency Awards scholarships, and they were in STEM subjects. So all the 8 universities in New Zealand offered these. They are going to be rerun again in 2018. So basically, students are always interested in scholarships, but they have to do their own research and look for it and find them. So Education New Zealand has staff working in Delhi at the High Commission, and they often on their website will list these scholarships.
So
and
this is the Education New Zealand website in Delhi.
Yes.
And you're saying they're coming up again, so they should look out for the dates when they need to apply?
Yes. Our last ones were STEM. So they were forensic IT, master in analytics, and cloud computing, masters in service-oriented computing.
And this is paid for throughout the term of
just for the first year fees.
Okay.
Basically gives them $10,000 towards their tuition.
For the master's program?
Yes.
Apart from these scholarships, is there anything else that they could look forward to in terms of part financing, government aid?
Yeah, it's always worth looking at our website for scholarships because they come and they go. Sometimes when we're launching a new program, Like the professional business masters, we had scholarships for a while. So, and master in human rights, we had scholarships also for a while. But the PhDs in New Zealand are domestic fees. Okay. So they're only about $6,500, $7,000.
Okay, so all international students pay exactly the same.
Yes, as domestic students, because New Zealand's very interested in bright, smart young people. We have Vice Chancellor doctoral scholarships.
Okay.
There are Commonwealth scholarships.
Okay.
There are some Ministry of Foreign Aid and trade scholarships too.
Okay, and this is all this information is on your website?
It's on the website, yeah.
But talking about the minimum qualifications, and let's talk about the master's program for now. What is the level you're looking at? Is there any score? Is there like an English language requirement?
Yes, there is. We're looking for value, not volume. So we're looking for students who have got a first division or a high second division pass from a tier 1 university. We base the universities on, it's an English system called NARIC. Okay. So the university needs to be recognized and a known university. Okay. They need a 6.5 IELTS and no band lower than 6. 3 tests of English that we use. We use TOEFL, and we say IELTS, and Pearson test of English.
Okay. So this could be a 3 years bachelor's degree or a 4 years bachelor's degree. Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. Engineering, though, is an honours degree, 4 years.
So looking at the medical program,
most of the doctors that are looking to come and study here are looking at maybe masters in public health, masters in emergency management, masters in leadership and management.
Now coming to the PhD program, so is this a structured program or do they need to first find a guide and based on their topic, individually do they need to do that? Yeah,
they need to do all that. So it's very important that in their master's degree they have a research component.
Okay.
And they also need to have a thesis topic. They need to have something that is going to be a match with a supervisor here, because they could be jointly publishing. And it needs to be something that the professor that is mentoring them has an interest in or is in their field. So they need to do a very detailed, process-driven application with an outline of their thesis, and then we match them up with a supervisor.
So let's talk about job opportunities going forward. You mentioned that the internship that they do during the period of their study is student work. But once they finish and they get that 1-year visa to work, what are the kind of jobs that they get?
A lot of our academic staff work in industry plus lecture here. So they've got amazing links. So often companies will actually contact us and say, we're looking for some graduates, we've got these positions available, can you recommend some good students?
Nice.
And engineering in particular, in New Zealand right now, there's an acute shortage of engineers. We're rebuilding the city of Christchurch after an earthquake, so there's a lot of construction management. The infilling, the growth in Auckland, housing, roading, all kinds of construction. There are huge employment opportunities.
We spoke about the masters, we spoke about PhD, and increasingly I find students also wanting to look at countries like New Zealand for an undergrad program. So an undergrad degree, let's say in engineering or any other field, does that give them the opportunities also to be able to work during and after?
I think coming in at bachelor's level is absolutely the best way to go, if that's possible. And by the time they've finished a bachelor's level, they're Kiwis. They've been here 3 to 4 years. They've got a group of friends. They know how the system works. They know where the jobs are. So they're at a huge advantage for employment and assimilation.
Yes.
Having said that, our Indian students in New Zealand are the most successful at getting employment of any other international ethnic groups.
Really?
Because Indians have hustle in their DNA, so they just get out there and look for employment and are really quite aggressive at doing it. How you get jobs, I say to them, 3 words: networking, networking, networking.
Okay.
Do not come and just hang out with other Indian students and be the Indian mafia. Worst thing to do. You are going to be sitting in a small classroom with people from all over the world. And one day when you say have a big construction company in Chennai or somewhere, you're going to think that Russian guy sitting next to me, he is part of my network and he can help me with this current project. And learn the culture, because that's how you find jobs.
Totally. That could be the biggest reason they want to come and study abroad.
Having said that, I mean, we have a huge and vibrant Indian community here in Auckland. We have Diwali, we have Mr. India competitions, Miss India, we have Bollywood movies, we have all the food, all the spices. Yeah.
But what you're saying is that jobs are available.
Yes.
It's possible to stay back.
Yes.
But they need to come in here, they need to network, they need to look for the jobs, and they will find them, because you're finding that a lot of Indians have good jobs here.
And we have very low unemployment in New Zealand. I think last I checked it was around about 7-8% unemployment. So go on to our websites like Trade Me, Seek, those kind of websites. Look at the job market, look at what people are looking to hire.
Right. So top of mind, which would be the 1 or 2 big areas you think right away come to mind that would have a lot of jobs for Indians?
Well, engineering definitely, computer and information sciences, business. We get a lot of really good Indian students coming for MBAs.
Right.
We're one of the few universities that do accept MBA students. But they've got to have about 4 years management experience back in India. Essentially, New Zealand isn't such a MBA-driven market. Most of the Kiwis that are doing MBAs are already in jobs and just upskilling.
Right.
Another thing, I get a lot of Indian students actually interested in education, early childhood, secondary teaching and primary teaching.
So Pamela, the last segment that I want to talk about is living expenses and accommodation in Auckland. So could you take us through what kind of costs they can expect and where they expect to live once they're here?
Accommodation is tight in Auckland because there are 2 universities here in the city. We do have accommodation in our city campus and our north campus. It's limited and very in demand. They have parties, they have balls, they have barbecues, they have tourism trips, so it is very nice.
They can integrate easily.
Exactly. And then often they will meet people that they will then, second semester,
they can stay with them.
Go and stay with them. There's websites that have accommodation. So I always recommend that students start looking for accommodation. Once they know they've got an offer and they're coming here, I honestly think it takes between $20,000 to $30,000 to live here for a year. Again, if they're shared living, it's cheaper. Students also need to start preparing to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
Indian males often can't cook, so they need to pick up on some cooking lessons from mom before they come, otherwise they get very skinny.
Pamela, we're standing in the midst of this campus, which is so beautiful, modern and sort of buzzy. But tell me, all the students that have heard us and want to be here, what is the application process?
Well, I always recommend that students go through an AUT registered agent.
Okay.
Because there's been a lot of unscrupulous agents in India in the past couple of years. So each university in New Zealand has to sign up to the Code of Practice by the Ministry of Education that we have to meet certain regulations to be allowed to have international students studying with us.
Okay.
So we have registered agents that also have to comply with these same standards.
And how do they locate one? How do they know which one is registered?
Well, again, if they go on the Education New Zealand website, there are NZRA agents.
NZRA.
ENZRA, so it's Education New Zealand Registered Agents.
Okay,
yeah.
fabulous.
And also, if they go on universities' websites, they usually list their agents.
Okay.
For example, AUT, I have all of my registered agents in India named there. They also help with getting visas with Immigration New Zealand. Yeah.
This is very useful because we've heard about Indian students getting duped and cheated by
Happened
agents.
a lot. Yeah.
So registered agents only, please, and look it up on
very
the
important.
website. Just before we wrap up, talk about your love for India and how often you've been there. And I know this is beautiful map of India in your office. There's a flag here. I see your picture behind the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, no, well, I've been going to India for 15 years for AUT. And first time I went, I was absolutely overwhelmed. Just the people, the energy, the colors, the noise,
the smells,
the horns, everything. I think I arrived in Kolkata and people just grabbed my bags and started taking off in all directions with my stuff. And now, all these years later, I think I'm half Indian. Sometimes people over there call me Princess Pamella from the Punjab. But I absolutely love going there. I love the food. I've made so many friends. It definitely gets into your blood. Yeah,
and you regularly come for these education
Yes, I come
fairs,
twice
so they
a
can
year.
possibly drop into one of them and perhaps meet you there.
I come twice a year. I will be, sometimes 3 times. I will be back end of August through September. So check the AUT website and see where I'll be. And I'll have a professor of engineering and a professor of science with me. So we're very happy to talk to students and give them course counselling.
Thank you so much, Pamella.
No, you're welcome. It's lovely to meet you.
Splendid to be here.
Yeah, lovely to meet you.
And look forward to meeting you in India in
Yeah,
September.
hopefully, yes.